An indelible mark on organization and individuals alike. As an author, Ryan's insights have enlightened and motivated many, drawing upon his personal experiences to guide others in their life journeys of self-discovery and professional growth. So without further ado, welcome to the stage of man who turns diversity into opportunity, who believes in the strength of diversity, and who inspires us all to find our unique voice. Ryan Perez. Make some noise for Ryan! Hey! That's right. I can tell a podium speaker when I see one. Just right around here. Also, these events can never be done without people behind the scenes. Tim, can you wave to everybody? Tim's pulling out here. Make some noise for Tim, who's running all the sound behind the scenes. All right, Ryan, the stage is yours.
One second. I just want to know if I can. Thank you so much. Trying to get more speaking gigs, so they're mad. Welcome. Thank you guys for coming, and thank you to all the organizers here. My name is Ryan Perez. I'm a digital stem cell, and what that means is that I actually created this brand a few years ago because I have a lot of identities that intersect into one, right? We're talking about intersectionality, and I happen to have autism, and I have like a lot of hyperfixations and what do you call them? Special interests that kind of make me very equipped to do a lot of different things. It's kind of like savant syndrome. You know, I'm really proficient in a lot of things, but then I'm not so proficient in other things. And I have extreme social deficits. I guess what we're going to be talking about today is, how, what is intersectionality? How can we reduce silos? I am black, not just by phenotype, but I'm black by culture. I'm Caribbean, I have Caribbean ancestry. I'm autistic, I have dyslexia, I have dyspraxia, I have dyscalculia, I have ADHD. And I have, and I'm Calgarian. That's another way that, I'm Calgarian. Yeehaw! Who's from Calgary? Awesome. So, and out of all the things, I've been discriminated against because I'm Calgarian. And I'll tell you why. So I was trying to get a date with someone that is from Toronto. And when she found out that I was Calgarian, she said, yeah, no, I don't want to date a Calgarian. I was like, huh? I was puzzled. What are you talking about? And she said, well, you guys actually charged a human rights activist, Dora Lafor, with a hate crime. A human rights activist with a hate crime. So she was like, that's equivalent to, charging PETA with animal cruelty, Could you imagine going to PETA's office and saying, murder is murder, right? And throwing red paint on them? That would never happen. Do you guys think that would happen? Huh? No, it would never happen. But in Calgary, maybe, So, essentially, I didn't really understand from her perspective why she wouldn't want to date me because I'm Calgarian. But, this is where we start talking about intersectionality. Intersectionality is, for her, is important because she's a black woman, she has two kids that are daughters, and, she has Jamaican heritage, but we don't even realize that intersectionality impacts black women the most. Because when you combine racism with sexism, what do you get? You get women that are being emotionally, physically abused and harmed, but no one gives a damn because they're black. So when you actually look at that in the context of everyone's background, whether you speak a different language and so on and so forth, or you talk about indigenous women that have gone missing and we still, we don't make that a priority. You understand what intersectionality is all about from that perspective. So, what was so funny about the situation with Adora Nwafor is that it made it all when she was charged with a hate crime. It made it all the way to Fox News. I was like, wow, Fox News. And Fox News is like, yeah, we're not racist, but those black people in Galway, yes, they're racist, right? So it's interesting to see how people jumped on the story, and really, it was just based on falsehoods. The charges were later dropped because you can't charge someone that is a human rights activist with a hate crime. But you can understand how embarrassing it was for Adora. And when you look up Adora and even Taylor McNally, these are infamous names. They raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for families in need, but they never mentioned that in the Calgary media or any media for that, right? And that just shows you how far behind we are. So understanding that intersectionality of the woman I was trying to date, I understand that she perceived where I'm from as unsafe, right? So this is why we need to consider intersectionality, because intersectionality is complex, right? When we don't consider intersectionality, we are creating reductionism. What's reductionism? Reductionism means that you are oversimplifying the human experience, right? Imagine if I gave you all, or someone said, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million, but you have 10 mailboxes, okay? Each mailbox has about 5 letters in it, and one mailbox has about 20. Which mailbox would you start first? All of the ones that had the 5 envelopes, or the one with 20 envelopes in it? You would start with the 5? 20? Would you start with the most first? I would start with the most first. But in reality, when you look at institutions, when you look at institutions, you look at schools, workplaces, so on and so forth, we tend to skip the mailboxes with the most envelopes in them. And and the reason why we do this is because we try to use this one-size-fits-all approach to everything, because we want to be productive and efficient. But let me tell you, you're not that productive and efficient when you're not considering the voices of the marginalized. Because when you don't consider the voices of the marginalized, you create civil unrest. You create people that don't want to engage in activities, they don't want to engage in the community, and therefore you have, inefficiency. You have lack of productivity, right? So intersectionality is very important for us to all consider, because we are gathering data from individuals that live very complex lives, especially due to colonization and due to marginalization. Me being an autistic person, a lot of people didn't believe. People call me a fraud. He's a fraud. He's trying to, because I had a GoFundMe campaign because last year, October, I was homeless. And because I had a mental breakdown. I was an entrepreneur for since 2000, a full-time entrepreneur since 2013, and I just burnt out. I didn't realize that I had autism. And when I realized I had autism, it was a little bit too late. I was already burnt out. When I tried to tell people that I had autism, they didn't believe me. So I watched my life pretty much spiral downward, and I lost everything. And I'm still homeless. Imagine, I came to Edmonton for this event, and I went to Walmart to find a charger because my charger was, or my phone was dead. I went to an Airbnb, and Airbnb was like Freddy Krueger's nightmare. It was crazy. I didn't realize, like, I don't know how it was listed on Airbnb, but it was a crazy situation. When I tried to leave that property, the gates were locked on both sides. I'm trying to get out. I'm recording this on my phone. I had to hop, I threw my luggage over the fence, and I had to hop over the fence, and the Uber driver was just watching. So I need to get a phone because I need to figure out how to find another Airbnb, and it was like on Saturday, so you know, the long weekend, all the places were pretty much booked up. And I needed to get my phone because I didn't feel, as a black person, as an autistic person by myself, I don't feel safe. So imagine, I go to Walmart in Kingsway, and two security guards were, one was following me and one was approaching me because I had luggage. You see, these are the experiences that people of color have that don't mention it because we are afraid. We're afraid of bringing these things up, but this is how complex our lives are, right? So for me, as an autistic person, I'm very scared of driving. I'm very scared of, just engaging with people because I don't know what they're going to do, based on how my life intersects. My friend, I will tell you, William Perez, he was a Cuban, his family was Cuban, and he was, first generation here in Calgary. But William, he saw himself as, he was like, he saw himself as white, he was okay because he had green eyes and everything, and he lived a pretty good life. He was an entrepreneur. He was one of my best friends. I met him in elementary school. And every time that him and I would talk on the phone in the last couple of years, I was talking about police brutality. And William, he's like, oh, I didn't realize that racism is in Calgary. I'm just so upset. I'm so appalled that you still have to experience those things. Because he would ask me to come over to his house at 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, hell no, I'm not going nowhere at 10 o'clock at night because I don't want to be stopped by the cops. He wants me to come drinking and all that stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stay home. Ironically, guess what happened? In July 2 years ago, I believe, William was stopped by the police while he was already parked. And I guess he had been drinking, but his truck was parked, and someone in the neighborhood had called the cops on him. So when the police showed up, William, got into an altercation with the police, and the police beat him up, cracked his ribs. William lost his life. William lost his life due to police brutality. No one talked about it. It's not really much on the media, but that's what. And I was like, okay, God, this is brutal. Why would you do that to my friend William? Right? But it goes to show you, his last name is Perez. It goes to show you that, even by your last name, you are targeted. But we don't talk about this stuff because we mask. A lot of people don't believe I have autism because I grew up in a Caribbean home where mental health is not even a subject. It's not a topic. And, and if you have something like it, they want to, brush you underneath the rug. They don't want anyone to find out. Right? And we've also, if I had a meltdown in my home, I would get beat. So we develop different ways of coping and different ways of handling autistic symptoms. That's why black folks go underdiagnosed within the autism community. Because we don't show the signs of autism. And if you look at the DSM-5 before the diagnosis criteria for such mental conditions, it was all geared around white men. So again, one size fits all, not accounting for how dynamic people's lives are and can be. And when you don't consider our voices, you put us in harm's way. Because there was a black kid maybe 2 months ago that got killed by the police because he was exhibiting autistic symptoms. Right? Black men are not safe to be autistic. So I cannot have a meltdown. When I went through that situation with the Airbnb, I was saying, I'm having a meltdown, guys, I'm having a meltdown. And I put it on my social media, and someone said, oh, that's not a meltdown. I was like, did you want me to like yell, like inside the house, and, because I didn't feel safe? Did you want me to break down outside? Because when I break down, I might go to jail. So intersectionality is very important from the perspective of data. It allows you to understand the complex lives that people live, and it allows you to make informed decisions. So I'm going to close this by saying, I'm a part of and kind of, spearheading a lot of this movement, though it came from Adora. Self-affirm movement means that I am not going to internalize how my identity intersects and how it makes other people feel. If I'm black today. You're going to get cussed out the black way. I'm not going to mask it to make you feel comfortable. I'm just going to be myself and be able to thrive being myself because I exist. Therefore, I matter. Everyone say it with me. I exist. Therefore, I matter. So let's do it one more time. I exist. Therefore, I matter. It's intrinsic value. We all have it. We are all unique. We all have our own stories and our own identities and how they intersect with our being. But we have to stop thinking that we have to produce things in order to be seen and heard. We have to stop thinking that I have to work 10 times as hard to be considered, worthy enough to find employment, or worthy enough to have food and shelter and clothing, right? So the last thing I'm going to say is that, my friend, when it comes to intersectionality and reducing silos, my recommendation is that organizations put more focus on standardizing brainstorming sessions and ideas. Because what my friend, he's a genius, what he was able to prove is that there's at least 216 different alternatives to one problem. He taught me how to do it, right? And he created this grid that had 6 different ways to compare something. 6 different ways of measuring things. When you combine them together, there's 36 different alternatives. When you add who, what, where, when, why, you have 216 different ways that one thing can be done. And I said, well, that's a lot of answers, but how do I find which one's the right one? He says, whichever is cheapest, fastest, and better. The key word better, because it has to be better for the stakeholders, better for the community, better for the environment. That's how you forge innovation, right? So in that grid, what I learned is that companies are not the smartest. People within silos, within departments, not the smartest people, because no one can come up with 260 different alternatives on their own. But if you can just find the right answer, you will find it by addressing all of the intersectional identities in your organization. Whatever works for your organization is the most innovative approach. Because you're considering all of the dynamics rather than your perspective from your lens, right? There's a lot of waste that's happening in our economy, a lot of waste happening in our schools, a lot of waste happening in corporations, and even at home, because we don't want to consider other people's perspectives. So I'm just calling for folks to just self-reflect and realize, maybe my life is not as complex as the other person, and maybe I should learn a little bit more about their perspectives before I make a decision, right? So, I just want to encourage folks that, there's a lot to learn, and we don't always have to be productive, we don't have to be efficient, we don't always have to be fast. Sometimes we can take our time and consider the stakeholders that we have, to make this world a better place. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. One more time for Ryan, everybody. Make some noise. I'm so glad that we had